H.W. Bush's body will now be taken back to his home state of Texas. He will be buried next to his wife at Texas A&M University, the site of the Bush Presidential Library. Now, for more on this, presidential historian Mike Purdy joins me via Skype from Seattle. Mike, good to have you with us on the programme. Let's start with that eulogy then, from one president to another, President 43 to 41, but more poignantly, perhaps, from one son to his father.
Yeah, it was a very moving speech, and obviously George W. Bush was very moved by it. It must have been a somewhat surreal moment for him giving that eulogy, in that not only is he the son of this George H.W. Bush, but he's a president himself. And while George W. Bush has been in many, many situations of pomp and circumstance, here's one that is very, very touching and very personal. And of course, he delivered it well. And at the end, he broke up a little bit. But a very moving speech by George W. Bush.
Yeah, Mike, as we're talking to you, we're just looking at pictures of Air Force One Special Air Mission 41, taking the body then of George H.W. Bush and his family as well on board that aircraft, taking them from Joint Base Andrews on their way back to Texas, where he will be buried alongside his beloved, of course, Barbara Bush, the late Barbara Bush. Mike, one of the interesting things, I think, from international observers and no doubt for domestic observers as well, of this funeral service was that astonishing presidential lineup, if you like, of former presidents and former first ladies in the front row, along with the current president as well. I'm wondering what you made of the interactions, let's say, between them all.
Yeah, well, obviously, some of the former presidents and current president have had their words with one another over time. I think Donald Trump, as the current president, has changed the atmosphere in Washington, D.C., changed the atmosphere in the United States and in the world, quite frankly, by some of his language. And I couldn't help but think that this must have been a very uncomfortable moment for Donald Trump, being with these former presidents. I also thought that as he listened to some of the speeches and eulogies, I wonder what he thought, whether he reflected at all about what his legacy might be, and what people say about him, and whether any of the words of praise for George H.W. Bush and his integrity and his decency, whether any of those things struck any chord in Donald Trump's heart. I don't know, but you can't help but wonder.
And of course, Donald Trump, known for being almost a proponent, if you like, of partisan politics at the moment. I'm wondering what you think the impact might be on a funeral service such as we've seen today, with the honor shown, the civility amongst all the attendees as well. What impact that might have on the politics of Washington?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that we can hope that this was a turning point for people, for President Trump, for some of the partisanship that we see in Washington. We can hope it's a turning point, but I don't know how long that will last. And because I think what it takes is a leader of the mold of George H.W. Bush, who by everything that he did and how he interacted with people and how he valued friendships and relationships, he molded things and he set the tone. And obviously, leaders set a tone. And Donald Trump has set a tone which has reverberated throughout the institutions of government in the United States. So while I'm hopeful, I'm also realistic and not sure that things will really materially change.
It's great to get your perspective. We appreciate it very much. Mike Purdy there on Skype for us from Seattle. Thank you, sir.